All right, today we're talking with Niv Davidovich with Davidovich Stone Law Group in Southern California. So, Niv, welcome to the show. Got some interesting things to talk about. So, I usually like to start off, take us back as far as you like to go, and tell us about your background, where you're coming from.
Okay, so let's see. I have grown up in Los Angeles since I was about 4 years old.
Uh huh.
I was born in Israel, and my parents moved here when I was four. I have been living in the San Fernando Valley in the city of Los Angeles ever since then. I went to USC for undergraduate electrical engineering, discovered I was not very good at that, and decided to shift over to law after that. During this entire period, I was also working in the music business as a songwriter and music producer.
Really?
So it's kind of doing all of that tangentially. Around 2008, I sort of put the music away and focused on law full time. I worked at three different firms before I opened up my own practice in 2017. And we've just been growing that practice ever since then for the last 9 and some odd years.
Awesome. So, before we get into the details of what you're
That's pretty
doing
much it. That's what we've
with,
been doing.
with representing landlords and property owners, um, talk talk some about you're working for three different law firms and talk about what it was like. Probably safe, secure jobs, making pretty good money. What was it like breaking out on your own and taking the risk?
That was a big change, and it was certainly scary. I think I positioned myself a little better for it by starting to develop my own clientele over the course of that time.
Mm-hmm.
And then or about a year before I officially moved out on my own, I really started focusing on developing that clientele by going out to events, not so much conferences, but more events where people from my community would be frequenting. So people who are in the Jewish community and who are also in real estate.
Mm-hmm.
And thankfully, there's a lot of people who have that overlap, especially in Los Angeles. So that's where I really started to develop it. I started doing that while I was at the last firm and bringing clients there. And then when I felt like I had enough um, existing business that I could take over, that's when I opened up. And so I left my last firm on February 2nd, and I was back at work in my new role on February 5th, and just continuing the cases that had already been started. And so there wasn't really a lull in that work. Not to say it wasn't difficult, not to say it wasn't frightening,
Yeah.
but you in order to make that jump, you just have to get over that fear and realize that it's not necessarily all within your control. You just have to take a leap of faith and go do it, because otherwise it's just never going to happen for you. You're not unless you're a guy who becomes a C-level person at a very, very large billion-dollar company or public company, you're not going to become wealthy from being an employee.
Yeah.
That's the hardest possible thing you could choose to do.
Now, is that an awareness you've always grown up with, or did you discover that in your own, being the employee, working for the man? Did you start to develop that mentality that if I'm ever going to be truly break out on my own, be wealthy, I need to be running my own business?
I think it's something that I grew up with because my dad had his own business. He had a mechanical, electrical, plumbing, engineering consulting business.
Mm-hmm.
So, but everybody I knew, and my parents are Russian, and virtually everyone I knew who was successful had their own business, and especially in that community, people tend to be entrepreneurial and go out and start their own things fairly often.
Mm-hmm.
So number one, I grew up with it, but number two, I also picked it up and just sort of did the math on it on my own. So my kids go to Jewish school, and let's see, at the time I left, I had how many kids? Two, 11, 13, 15. No, I had three, and then there was one on the way.
Yeah.
So I just sat there doing the math and said, okay, this is how much money I earn.
Hmm.
This is how much tuition costs. Forget all the other things that could possibly be, but here's
Right.
just tuition. Here's my salary going up, and here's tuition going up. And I realized very, very quickly that within a few years, I was essentially going to be poor
Yeah.
because just the cost of living would exceed my income. So once you look at it and you do the math, you're like, oh, I don't have a choice. I actually have to go out because there is no way to go out and make a sufficient amount of money to lead this particular lifestyle
Yeah.
while remaining in this position.
So, how did you discover in working as an attorney there for several years? How did you discover this niche? Representing landlords, property owners, developers.
By accident. Um, so I told the story on a number of podcasts, but it's a good story. So getting clients to me was sort of like this mysterious thing. Like I couldn't
Uh huh.
understand how people do it, how you convince people, how you meet people. Like it all just seemed very magical and mystical,
Right.
right? So I sat down with the partners in my law firm and I said, "Hey, look, I want to start developing clients like you have. What is what's the secret?" So one of the partners said to me, "Well, I'll tell you my story." And he said, "What I do is I play golf. So when I was a young attorney, I decided I'm just going to go play golf. And that's where I can go meet people because other business people also play golf." So he said he
Hmm.
went to a public course. He's a young attorney, he's not in a country club. So he went to a public course every Sunday morning for 3 hours and tried to get into different groups because apparently what they do is when you go to a public course and you're by yourself, they put you with other people to play with
Sure.
who also don't have four people coming with them.
Uh huh.
And in this way, you meet strangers. He said he went for 8 months straight, every single Sunday without fail, didn't meet a single soul.
Uh huh.
Kept going. And then one Sunday, met a guy, walked into his cart. He's like, "What do you do?" "Oh, I'm a contractor." "What do you do?" "I'm a construction lawyer." "Oh, fantastic." He signed the one client. And that one client turned into two because he did a good job. And then two turns into four. And then that's how you build it from there. You just keep on going out to these things.
Yeah.
They said, "What do you do?" And I don't play golf. I don't play softball. I don't do any of that stuff. I'm like, I do Jew stuff. I
What'd she say?
I do Jew stuff. I hang out with other Jewish people doing Jewish stuff. You know,
Okay.
go go to temple events, go to Jewish events.
Yeah.
They said, fantastic. There's a lot of Jewish people who are in real estate. We do that. Go out and tell them you're a real estate lawyer and go meet them there. So I started looking into that. Well, long story short, I got invited to an event. And at the first one I went to, I met some guy who was a real estate developer. He became one of my first big clients. And then it just sort of built from there. And then I started leveraging the connections I had in the school because my children were friends with other children whose parents were in that business. And so I
Hmm.
became friends with them, and a lot of them ended up becoming my clients.
Yeah.
So you just kind of you have to leverage whatever it is that you have in front of you. So everyone does something. And if you don't do something, find something to do. And then at that thing that you're going to do, you'll probably be able to find people who are interested in patronizing your business. I mean, I think that's more a tactic for a B2C business. A lot of your listeners might be people, sorry, a B2B business. A
Hmm.
lot of your listeners might be people who are B2C people. So
Right.
they're they're looking for more what I'm looking for, which is I can't necessarily, I'm looking for companies who are in need of legal services. I'm
Hmm.
not trying to sell someone a, 15 or 20 or $50 product online. I think that's a completely different marketing scheme and
Right.
different procedure. It's a different business altogether that I think is absolutely fascinating, but it's not really what I did. But for people who are in the service industry, that's really what you got to do. You have to leverage your community. And I find that most successful people do that. So when I speak to, for example, like a Chinese attorney, he ends up having a lot of Chinese clients because he
Sure.
already knows those people and he
Right.
speaks their language literally.
Yeah.
Russian lawyers have lots of Russian clients because they're already there.
Right.
So there's nothing wrong with that. Leverage whatever community you happen to be in. And in fact, actually, I'm a partner in a separate in a sister law firm where my partner actually is also a veteran. He is
Mhm.
a former fighter pilot, and he started out with us, and he said, "I want to start my own firm. Let's do this together." So we supported him in that venture. It's called Eagle Law Group,
Uh-huh.
and that law firm focuses completely on aerospace, space, and defense type legal work, most of it being transactional, but with some litigation as well.
Sure.
So he did the same thing. He leveraged the community that he's already in, which is veterans, and then also what veterans do afterwards, get into the defense industry because that's
Hmm.
just a very natural progression.
Right. Right.
So, they tell writers, what should I write about? And everyone tells them, write what you know.
Sure.
So here it's do what you know and meet the people you already know.
Absolutely. Well, hold that thought. We're going to be right back. Take a quick break. All right, back talking with Niv Davidovich, with the Davidovich Stone Law Group in SoCal. So, all right, Niv, great lesson on networking. We talk about that in the veteran community all the time. That's one of the big weaknesses of a lot of veterans if they get out, especially if they relocate from where they were just based at, where they go back home. They've pretty much lost their civilian network. So the skills and the deliberate networking activities that need to take place are vitally important, to get that network back up and building and online, and then see where it goes from there. So um, ultimately, so let's talk a little bit about what you guys actually do in the legal field. We were
Okay.
talking before we hit the record buttons that um, a lot of veterans end up being property owners, rental house landlords, by accident or default, and
Right.
many of us do it intentionally over the years as investment properties, but nonetheless, most of the veteran community, if they're not tenants themselves, they're probably they've been landlords or been both. So um, we're all very familiar with the things that can and do go wrong in the world of rental properties and
Oh yeah.
landlordship. So let's talk about that a little bit. What do you see? What are some of the things you see the most, especially? I know you also represent property developers and
Mhm.
all of that with your real estate. But as far as like rental properties, investment properties, what are some of the things, the biggest issues, or maybe pieces of advice you could have for a landlord?
From a national perspective, if you're looking at a national scale, the first thing to do is figure out where it is you want to buy. Now, there are trade-offs here. The places that have the most tenant protections also tend to be the places where rents have the possibility of going up the highest. So, for example, here at home in Los Angeles, even though rents have gone down recently for a variety of different economic reasons, over a larger period of time, value and rents tend to go up here a lot faster
Hmm.
than in other parts of the country. At the same time, Los Angeles has some of the strongest possible tenant protections, and it's fantastic if you're a tenant. Actually, not really, it hurts you at the end. But that's obviously very difficult, costly, and risky for landlords. Same thing with New York City or Manhattan or something like that. you see that owning Manhattan real estate is, in the long run, theoretically, maybe not now, who knows what's going to happen, but in the long run, over its history, obviously very lucrative.
Right.
But it's also got some of the strongest tenant protections. This tends to repeat itself in major metropolitan areas. Major metropolitan areas, even in red states, the center tends to be very blue, and the cities tend to
Hmm.
be run by an exceedingly more liberal and even socialist group of people.
Hmm.
But that's not necessarily true outside of the city, and it's certainly not true in the more suburban areas of the city, and it's not necessarily true uh, on the state level. So, but those places also tend to be far from the city center, so the rents are lower, and the the increases in value also tend to be lower. So you have that trade-off.
Yeah.
But you also have to realize that if you're going to be an owner in a place where it's not your backyard, it is very difficult to do that in a tenant-friendly place if it's not something you're doing full time. I
Right.
tell I tell LA people all the time. This is LA used to be a place, maybe I would say at least 20 years ago, but really a better example would be 40 years ago. 40 years ago, you could hold down a full-time job and own 150 units as a side hustle.
Hmm.
No problem.
Yeah.
Especially if you had a property manager on top of that, really not an issue. People would pay the rent. If they didn't pay the rent, an eviction would take 30 days, maybe 45. Cases would get settled at the first appearance. Tenants didn't have attorneys. Everything was very quick.
Yeah.
So it was a little bit, the analogy I use is like, it was like playing for a college miniature golf team. You
Good
could you could
analogy.
do
Yeah.
your major, you could do your major and play for the miniature golf team.
Sure.
It doesn't require a lot of practice and it's not going to take up too much of your time,
Right.
right? So compare that to today, and being a landlord in LA today, even for 2 units, is like playing in the NFL during playoffs. This is
Wow.
not a side hustle. You will not be able to do this as a side hustle. And if you do, you will get pummeled and run over.
Yeah.
Now, that's not everybody's experience. Some people have nothing but nice tenants and they treat their tenants like royalty. And somehow or another, they're only getting other nice tenants
Hmm.
and they really don't have an issue. That's very rare. Most people tend to run in at some point to one of these nightmare tenants. Now,
Yeah.
statistically speaking, it's actually pretty rare. 95% of all tenants are very, very nice, good people.
Huh. Yeah.
They just like to pay their rent, don't bother anybody, go to work, come home, watch TV, go back to work, come
Hmm.
home. They just don't want to have any trouble. Like any normal person, 95% of the tenants are those normal people.
Yeah.
And I never hear about them. Nobody ever calls me to tell me how nice or how nice they are being to their tenants and how
Right.
everything's hunky dory. Nobody calls me to tell me that. It's none of my business.
It's always the horror stories you hear about.
I only hear the horror stories. So, number one, please take everything I say with a grain of salt because I am admittedly very jaded and biased because of my experience. I realize that it is a very, very small percentage of the people. And I know that from a mathematical and statistical perspective, but still, take it with a grain of salt. That's number one. But number two, those 5% of the people who are not good people, who are bad and are more than willing and eager to take advantage of a system that invites them to do so, can be very costly and very taxing, both financially and emotionally slash psychologically. And that's really where I come in. And as much as I know that we help people a lot, you also have to realize that you can't necessarily fight the entire system. You have to work within the system as it's presented to you and do the best job you can within that system.
Yeah.
I'm not a person who can go out and change the rules. That has to be done on a legislative level.
Right. So
Um,
simple question.
yeah,
Like whether it's LA or San Diego or any examples you may have,
yeah.
are there actually rules on the book that say, okay, a tenant can move in, pay the rent for a couple months, and then they just quit paying the rent? And oh, they automatically get to live there for 6 months without paying the rent? Or
It's
is this
not, they don't say that because obviously that would be ridiculous. And
okay?
that law wouldn't survive any level of judicial scrutiny.
Uh,
What they do is they write the laws in a way where that is the practical reality of what happens. It's just not what's written. So let me give you an example. And by the way, you cannot compare people tend to look at California like this one big monolith, like all of California is this communist hellhole. It's not all of California. It is some parts of California,
yeah.
like Los Angeles and the Bay Area, but it
Right.
is absolutely not all of California. And I know this because we do evictions outside of LA County.
Sure.
There are something like 10, 11 counties that are in what we would consider Southern California. And when you cross the county line over to San Bernardino or Kern or Riverside or Orange, it's a different world. It's like stepping into a different country. That's how different the experience is in my business.
Is the
So,
difference but because of the laws that are on the books or like
yes,
the opinions and the way the judges operate?
also that. Remember
Okay. So
that
it is.
judges are not driving from Los Angeles to San Bernardino, which is like can be hour and a half, 2 hour drive every day. The
Uh-huh.
judges who are judges in San Bernardino live in San Bernardino.
Okay.
The judges who are judges in LA live in LA. And so they tend to be somewhat reflections of their communities.
All right.
San Bernardino is a lot more has a
Sure.
lot more conservative people. Los
Mhm.
Angeles has a lot less. So the judges tend to reflect that reality.
Okay.
And I'm not saying I'm not making any qualitative opinions politically. I'm
Sure.
just telling you from a landlord's perspective, a conservative judge is going to be better for you than a liberal judge because the liberal judge will simply be on your opponent's side versus a conservative judge who's less likely to be on your opponent's side.
Right.
It's simple as that. All right. So in Los Angeles, yes, the laws are very, very different. So LA County is the largest county in California, and it has within it 88 cities. Of those 88 cities, something like 20 of them have their own independent just cause eviction laws
Hmm.
and or rent control laws. And you have to know A, what city you're in, B, what that particular city's laws are, and C, make sure that you are following that particular city's laws. Then there's the state laws that overlap them. You have to figure out which one applies in which case and then follow that one. And sometimes it's not clear, and sometimes there's disagreements,
Yeah.
even within the judicial system. And then you have to also, if you have like a Section 8 tenant, you have to incorporate the federal laws that go on top of that. So it is very, very complex. And the complexity is by design because the more complex it is, the easier it is for you to trip up. And if you trip up even a little bit, the tenant wins.
Yeah.
Getting through a case for a landlord is a little bit like running, an American Ninja Warrior gauntlet. You need to be perfect in order to not fall into the water.
Wow.
For the tenant, it's as simple as watching you and then every now and then getting the opportunity to throw banana peels in your way.
Hmm.
That's what they do.
And there are
Um,
professional tenants, or I call it professional
oh yeah,
renters.
100%.
They've
This
been through
is
this many times before.
not only that, you don't even have to be very creative to be a professional tenant anymore. On TikTok, they sell ID fraud kits. Someone will provide you for a nominal sum with a fake ID and fake credit and fake bank statements and the whole fake thing. Then they'll give
Oh
you
my God.
former employer numbers to call for references. You call, it's their buddy. Former landlord references, it's their other buddy, and they'll say these were perfect employees, and you go check it, and they gave you a fake social security number. Credit comes back good. So
Wow.
you can buy a kit on TikTok. I have had so many of these calls you don't even know. And
Wow.
when the police come, God bless them, there's nothing they can really do. They say, I don't know who's lying, you or you. I'm not a judge, so it's a civil matter. Go figure it out in court. And for those kind of people who are essentially, they're not officially squatters because the definition of a squatter in California law, at least, is someone who has entered with no permission. That doesn't include someone who has entered with permission obtained fraudulently, which is really what these professional tenants are.
Yeah.
A squatter is someone who literally breaks into your unit.
Right.
But
Yeah.
even getting them out is
So
also difficult.
if you get into court with somebody who basically is not who they say they were,
Yeah.
is that like all you got to do is get in front of the judge and like, okay, the person is the person really going to show up with fake credentials? Like, do you automatically win
Sometimes,
because they committed they're not they're a fraudulent person?
no, you don't automatically win. And a lot of the times, even those people will end up getting free attorneys. That's the other issue in LA County.
Oh wow.
By my last count, 16 different agencies who are 501c3 organizations and but also publicly funded who have this army of lawyers who believe landlords are evil people because they charge people money to live in housing. And housing is a human right, they say, and you shouldn't be able to charge people for human rights. The audacity and like irrationality of the opinion is mind-boggling because what about water? You're not protesting the DWP. They're charging you for water. You need water to live.
Yeah, water should be
You're
free.
not right. You're not protesting the supermarket who's charging you for food. You need that to live. So why are you
Wow.
protesting the landlord for charging you for something that you need in order to live? Yeah, you may need it to live. I think nowadays every person needs a smartphone to live, apparently.
Yeah.
You look at the kids. But we're not all protesting Apple and saying, hey, you need to give us free iPhones.
Yeah. Although
So
there are a lot of
this,
programs that'll get you a free phone.
right, but that's a government program. And if the government wants to give you free stuff, hey, no problem. Go talk to them. That's what Section 8 is for. Section 8 is there to help you pay your rent. That's a
Yeah.
very nice program. And if you want to participate in it as a landlord, God bless you. That's
Hmm.
really what's supposed to happen. The government is supposed to take care of people who are the most at risk and the most economically disadvantaged.
Yeah.
But the key word in that sentence is the government is supposed to. Private
Mhm.
citizens are not supposed to take the brunt of taking care of those people. And
Right.
that's what this movement against landlords seems to do. They say, well, you're a landlord, you're rich, you own all of this property, you take the brunt of these losses. You let people stay there for free.
Right.
And we're going to force you into this with no compensation. And we're going to create a system where you are essentially forced into giving away free rent. That is an abomination.
Yeah. It's not sustainable. I mean, it's crazy.
No,
Okay, so
I walk into the supermarket, I steal $100 worth of stuff, and I say, I need this to live. Guess what? Still going to jail. Maybe not in LA, but everywhere else. Still going to jail.
right. Right.
You walk into your apartment and say, "Look, I know I told you I was going to pay $2,000 a month, but I can't afford it anymore." You're going to get a nice deal and get a whole bunch of free rent. And not only are you not going to go to jail, you're probably going to walk out profiting from it with nothing on your record.
Yeah.
Why? I don't understand that.
Wow. Okay, so over the years I collected unintentionally and intentionally rental properties, rental houses. I think I had as many as 5 at one point in like 3 different cities. One little thing I picked up on was the more time, energy, and money I spend screening the client before I put him in the house, the better off it always worked out. So if you're talking to the military family out there, whether they intentionally or unintentionally acquired this rental property, and they're probably not even going to be in the same town when the renters are in there. What are
Mhm.
some of the things that come to mind that a new landlord or not maybe not so experienced landlord can do to protect themselves as best they can?
Number one, what you're saying is exactly right. This is what I tell people all the time. They say, fine, I already own this property. What can I do to protect myself? I say, it doesn't start with me, it starts with you. It starts with the screening process.
Mm-hmm.
So the screening process is, I'll start with this: trust your gut. I have to hire people in my business. And one of the people that I love on LinkedIn is Gary Vaynerchuk. He has a great phrase, which I repeat
Yeah.
nearly daily. Hiring is guessing, firing is knowing. So
That's great. Yeah.
realize that to a degree, when you are admitting someone into your real property, it's a little bit like hiring an employee. To a degree, you're guessing, but you get to do a lot more research than I, as an employer, get to do. So, number one, do a thorough screening so you have actual facts in front of you. Do the background search, do a litigation search that's local to your area or to where the person is moving from. You don't have to do necessarily a national litigation search, but you really should be doing a full-blown litigation search. See if this is a person who is in the habit of suing people or suing landlords. If they are, say no.
Yeah. So we're not talking. So not only do you have to do a credit check and um,
Criminal background
a
check.
criminal background check, now we got to do a litigation check too.
Yeah, because a lot of the times you'll find, oh, wait a minute, this crazy person has sued the four landlords that they've been living with
Mm-hmm.
in the last few years.
Wow.
What do you think the chances are that they're coming in to find a new target? It's
Yeah.
100%. So just say no.
And also, along the same lines, like, oh, it's $100 application fee, and we're going to do this check, and this check. A lot of these professional renters, the ones that are trying to pull something, as soon as they see that or hear that, they'll go somewhere else. A lot of times they know they're not going to pass it, or they don't want to. They know since you're checking, that's not the
Yeah.
property for them. If you're a new landlord, and you're like, well, just give me the first month's rent. Yeah, well, we'll call it. That's the person they want. The person that's not going to check them out.
Yeah.
So
So many of the cases I have are,
it sounds so
well,
simple.
he was a friend, or
Hmm.
he was my sister's friend, he's a buddy,
Yeah.
whatever it is. Your buddy will sell you out for $57 and a cherry Coke. Okay? Believe me.
So true. I have longtime friend of the family, Ann Hagedorn from the Kansas City area. She managed for 50 years. She's managed 50, 75, 100 homes for all other sorts of people as a real estate agent.
Mhm.
She says, if I show somebody a rental property, I can tell within 30 seconds if they're going to be a good tenant or not. She goes, I can tell by talking to them on the phone before I even meet them at the property. I can tell by talking to them on the phone.
Yeah,
I
you
just know it.
really
She's
you
she got it.
develop a sixth sense about it,
Mhm.
and you need to trust that instinct. If
Yeah.
anything feels off, you have to just really be honest with yourself. Be honest with yourself. Do a gut check. If anything feels off, even if it looks good on the surface, walk away. It's not worth it.
Yeah. I suppose nowadays, especially in a place like LA, you decide not to rent to somebody, you might be having to justify that also.
That is very true. So there are civil rights disputes that happen.
Hmm.
The big scam that is proliferating in California, really all around California, is that California made it illegal to say no to people based on their source of income. And even though that discrimination is generalized to any source of income, the real purpose of the law was to make sure that people who were coming with a Section 8 voucher couldn't be rejected simply because they had a Section 8 voucher. So now in California, you technically don't really have a choice about whether or not you're taking Section 8. A lot of people didn't know that that got added to the books. And so
Really?
you have landlords who are just maybe renting out an ADU, like a back house, granny flat. Maybe they just own the one house. Like you said, they bought a house and they have a really good loan on it. They don't want to sell it. And now they've moved into their second house and now they need to rent out the first house. So they never meant to be a landlord. It's just that events transpired and forced them into being one.
And now somebody
And
can show up
so,
with a Section 8 voucher and they're stuck with renting to them automatically because they can't turn them
no, no, no. It's much worse than that.
down.
This is how the scam works. You got someone who's on Section 8,
Yeah.
and that Section 8 person partners with an attorney. The Section 8 person will text. They don't call, they text, or they direct message via a real estate website's messaging program, Zillow, what have you.
Yeah.
And they'll just simply write to the broker or to the owner themselves, do you take Section 8? And the unwitting owner or broker will say, no, we do not. Done. That's the lawsuit. And then they say you discriminated against this person because they have Section 8. They put the text message in the actual complaint, and that's it. You have to pay them because they're right. Under the law, you have discriminated against them. It's
Yeah.
no different from a legal perspective of them saying, hi, do you take families? And you say, no, no kids.
Yeah.
That would be discriminating against them based on their family status. You're not allowed to do that. Well, you're not allowed to also tell people Section 8. Now, what I try to explain to owners is you need to say yes to that question. You are not saying yes to that tenant when they ask you, do you take Section 8? You're just saying, in general, I do not reject people because they have Section 8. You are not obligated to say yes to that particular tenant. In fact, you're not obligated to continue talking to them. People have this idea that, oh, I have to respond to this tenant. And so if I'm going to tell them no, I have to tell them everything I'm thinking and all the reasons why I'm rejecting
Oh
them.
boy.
No,
Yeah.
you don't.
Wow. So is are you able to put a dollar value? Like if somebody says, "Do you take Section 8?" and the response was no. Oh, here's lawsuit.
Yeah,
Like what's typically that going to cost you if you screw that up?
$16,500
Oh my God.
plus attorney's fees.
Just a
But I,
standard
I,
boom. You owe me 16 grand, buddy.
that's if you come to me and I know the guys who do these and I can get you a better deal.
Oh my God. Wow, that's crazy.
And they're right. There's no point in fighting the case. It's just, I mean, also across the country, we have these ADA scams where disabled people are claiming that they went to a parking lot and the parking lot slope was off by 1%. And so now they want money for you having an ADA violation. It got worse. Then it turned into the people who are blind. And they didn't even leave their houses. They just go on websites and they say that the websites are not blind compatible or visually impaired compatible. Worse than that.
Oh,
Worse than that. There is no federal standard for this. So meanwhile, while there is a sort of industry standard that we apply to making sure that websites are compatible, there is no provision in the law where you can say, I have a certificate that says my website is compatible with this standard, therefore you cannot sue me. You can't just come to court with that and say, I win. Because
wow.
it's just a dispute of the experts now. They're going to come and say, we don't care if that's the standard. That's not the official federal standard. So, despite the fact that you comply with this, we still have a case. And ADA comes with attorney's fees. So, people will just go around and file these lawsuits, thousands of them, with the same plaintiff,
Mm.
thousands of them. And they know that it costs more to fight them than it does to simply settle with them.
Yeah, so
So,
they're
the
just looking
way
for a quick win.
Right. The way that we serve our clients is by telling them the honest truth. The honest truth is if you can pay this person five, six, seven, $9,000, 10,000, whatever, something in that neighborhood, it's going to be cheaper than you asking me to fight. So the only way to get out of this economically is to settle it as quickly as possible because you are paying this money. This money is coming out of your pocket one way or the other.
So even if
Now,
like in this case, like let's say you're going to fight it, once you lawyer up, do they just go away or do they pretend to? keep fighting it
They're
because they
lawyers.
got 1,000 other ones, that they can go mess with.
No, no, this is their business. They run a volume business of just hitting as many people as they can. And try and understand, I call it a scam because it's obviously on its face a
Yeah,
scam.
right.
It is not illegal. It is not a scam like a Ponzi scheme.
Yeah,
It is 100% legal to do this because the laws have been written in a way which not only permits but also encourages this type of behavior.
wow.
Both on for the Section 8 thing that I told you about, for the ADA things that I told you about, employment cases in California, tenant habitability cases in California, they all have these attorney's fees provisions in it. So it's very easy for people to just make stuff up and find lawyers who are going to sue for it. And I really want to make a differentiation here for your listeners between what are typically known as ambulance chasers and these types of cases.
Yeah,
Ambulance chasers are personal injury attorneys. And while there are certainly a lot of less than classy personal injury attorneys, the notion of the personal injury attorney who's uh, befuddled and disheveled and is literally chasing around an ambulance to try and sign a client is really outdated.
yeah,
Nowadays, personal injury attorneys are some of the most successful attorneys in the industry, and you can't really fake an injury too much. You can't fake a broken bone.
right.
There's an x-ray. There was a doctor. We went to a hospital.
At least it's likely there is some type of pain
Correct.
involved. Now, maybe they get way too much more money for that, but at least there was some type of
There was
loss.
something there.
Whereas
Exactly. There was
this stuff
something
is
there.
like these people,
This stuff is complete nonsense.
yeah, yeah,
You're really paying them just for the privilege of buying your piece. And the only reason you have to is because the law has created an opening for this kind of legalized racketeering. That is what it is. It is racketeering.
damn,
In
wow,
the same way that the mafia goes around and says, give me $5,000 or I'm going to burn your restaurant down. These
hmm,
people are coming and saying, give me $5,000 or I will cost you legal fees
right.
or I will put a judgment on you, which will allow me to take even more money from you than I'm asking for now. Explain to me, what is the difference? There is none. One is made illegal by the laws, one is legal by the laws. Other than that, there's really no difference.
That's crazy. Well, Nib,
Yeah.
man, we're out of time at this point. If somebody is interested in learning more from you, providing what the services that you do, how they go about finding you?
So we are at davidovichlaw.com. That's DAVIDOVICHLAW.com. That's our website. And you can find all of our contact information there, but you can email me directly at niv, at davidovichlaw.com. Or you can call us at 818-661-2420. We have offices in Los Angeles and San Diego, and we serve the entire Southern California area for purposes of any litigation. We do a little bit in Northern California as well. And for transactional services, which we do as well for real estate, construction, and leasing, like landlord-tenant, we do that service nationally. So wherever you happen to be, if you have a real estate transaction that you want to be doing, we can help you with that anywhere in the United States.
Awesome. All right, Nib. Well, thanks for you got a wealth of information. We just barely scratched the surface of it, but appreciate you sharing
Yeah.
all that, and look forward to seeing your future success.
All right. Thanks so much for having me on.
You bet. All right, we're Oscar Mike.